sometimes you're just in one of those moods where you're like, no, today I'm being depressed. That's it. Nobody can convince me otherwise. I get in the shower and I turn it down all the way to like cold, and then I get out and I just walk around and I'm soaking wet. My boyfriend hates it, but I'm living the dream. Oh, I have pants on, but nothing on top. That's the kind of vibe we're going for. 1 a.m. in our pants. If it's not 1 a.m. for you, just pretend it is. And if you don't like 1 a.m., then pretend it's a time that you like. You can be in your pants too if you want. You can be in our pants together. We're all friends here. It's fine. As someone who suffers with depression myself, not right now, but just, in life, generally a depressed person. Not anymore though. But as somebody who has struggled with depression in the past, I have a strong feeling that you can prevent it. And today I'm going to be sharing with you my tips on how I think you can prevent depression. And it's not just my own personal experiences. I have done some research into this as well, because I am a doctor. I do have some kind of, knowledge of research and shit. So I've even done the work for you. So hang about and come on this journey with me. Today you are listening to, if you didn't know already, Backseat Positivity, the podcast of all things happiness, I guess. Except, I'd like to start on a negative note. I'm sorry. Number one, I'm complaining that it's hot again. Yes, it's happened. For those of you who are listening for a long time, you are chronic listeners. I leant over a cactus and I literally have cactus spines all in my arm. So that's a bad time. They're really small as well, so I can't just pull them out. They are like millimeters long. So, arguably better than the massive ones. But anyway, that's my problem. And also, it's fucking boiling. Our houses in the UK are designed to keep in heat. So when we have a heat wave, it's literally worse being inside. It's like being in a sauna. So forgive me, I am in my pants and I have this like kind of semi-wet towel on me and I don't have any underwear on. So, I have pants on but nothing on top. So, that's the kind of vibe we're going for today. It's also 1 o'clock in the morning. 1 in the morning. There it is. That's the time that I do things, apparently. So that's the kind of vibe we're going for. 1 a.m. in our pants. If it's not 1 a.m. for you, just pretend it is. And if you don't like 1 a.m., then pretend it's a time that you like, and all will be okay. You can be in your pants too if you want. We can be in our pants together. We're all friends here. It's fine. So, all right. Come on, Dawn. Let's go. I can't fucking see my not script. I don't have a script, as you can probably tell. I have a outline, which is definitely not a script because I fucking go off on tangents all the time. My outline. So, let's go into my history of depression. I won't go into it too deeply. I just kicked the camera. I won't go into it too aggressively because I have talked about it in my podcast. It's called like the worst year of my life or something like that. Because it was. I had really bad depression, basically wanted to like kill myself all the time. And only just managed to get myself out of bed. I really don't know how I did it. But there we go. I got out of that. But I truly believe that I could have prevented it from getting as bad as it did. / could have maybe even prevented it completely. Now, I'm not going to go into the significant details of it because you can just go listen to that episode. That's not me like plugging it, but it's like, if you listen to the podcast regularly, you don't want me repeating a fucking story that you've already heard. So I basically had a very complicated grief reaction on a background of having a strong tendency towards depressive behaviours. And I don't think this is intentional. I don't want to be depressed, as I'm sure you don't fucking do either. So I don't think it's a choice, although sometimes wallowing in the sadness of life can be kind of fun. I don't know why, but sometimes you're just in one of those moods where you're like, no, today I'm being depressed or sad, and that's it. Nobody can convince me otherwise. So, but no, we're talking full on like depressed here. Now, my tendencies would be the fact that my family are, and I've spoken about this many times, my family are a depressive kind of family. It's just in the genes / in the environmental factors. Like, it's just there. It's it's not as though I don't like my family, but I'm laying down the facts here. There is a tendency towards depressive behaviours, depressive negative thoughts, and negative vibes, negative ways of seeing things, negative ways of dealing with things in particular. So that's the kind of, you're already starting on the sort of back burner as such. Then also I did have, oh god, here we go. I did have I don't even want to say it. I did have a somewhat abusive childhood. I don't want to go into significant detail about that. I might do one day. It's not as though I don't talk about it, but it's like, boo fucking who, Dawn. We've all had bad childhoods. We don't need to hear about it. And also, some of it's kind of maybe incriminating. So, not to me, but, to the dead people. So, maybe I don't want to go there. But anyway, the difficulty is you can't change your genetics yet. You can't change your family. And you can't change your upbringing. So we're already starting from, well, can you prevent depression? And then I've just listed to you all the things that you can't fucking change. So we're already starting from a no, but I'm telling you, it's a yes. Now, although you can't change those things, there are people who you will see who have very similar childhoods, but go down extremely different paths. Now, you could say from my childhood, for example, I could have become a homeless drug addict. I could have. And there are some people with maybe worse childhoods than me who are homeless drug addicts, but then there are also people with the same story or similar story who are not homeless drug addicts. So some of it is you. It's not just, oh, well, I've had a shit life, that's fucking it. No, it's how do you cope with that shitness? And that is, I guess, my first point, is that you need some kind of resilience. And I'm going to do a resilience podcast. I'm not a fucking lecturer. Resilience podcast in the near future. I think it's an important one to do. I've got so many podcasts that I've got upcoming. So resilience will be in there. But it's not like, I don't want people to think, okay, resilience, well, okay, I have a shit time, so how well can I power through it? That is not what resilience is. Resilience is like, I'm having a shit time, how can I deal with that at the moment, and then help myself to get back on track in the time that I need, rather than just like, okay, I'm going to power on or power through it. It's like, how quickly can I bounce back from a shit situation or something knocking me back? Now, when I was younger, I had terrible resilience, I would say. Not terrible, obviously I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to go drink myself into a hole. But I would say it's much worse than it is now. Sorry, it was much worse than it is now. Because I'm just a changed woman, let me tell you. Now, whether that's age, I never know. Whether that's experience, probably. Whether that's, all of this learning I'm doing, whether that's being on treatment and antidepressants, I think some of it is that. And I do get a little bit worried for the future, where I'm like, I might have to come off them one day. And it's not as though I'm relying on them, but it's like, well, am I a person who's ever going to be able to come off them? I am pouring with sweat. It's actually disgusting. I am so sorry. You might think, Dawn, it's only 22 degrees. Yes, it might be 22 degrees outside. I tell you what, if I could podcast outside, life would be a dream. But it's not a dream, because I have to podcast inside where everything's insulated. It's probably more like 28 in here, I would say. Maybe 25 to 28. I don't really know. But it's bloody boiling. And it's pretty humid too. Anyway, keep being resilient about how hot it is. I'm just powering through it. I mean, that, like I said, resilience is not powering through. But I mean, this is something I can power through. You know, it's like, it's minor. It's not like, oh, I got like sexually assaulted in a park. I'm just going to power through. No, it's like, I'm hot. I am going to try and power through this, because it's only temporary, you know. It's not like a significant blowback on my mental or physical health, although I probably will be a little prune after this. So I also think one of my probably biggest issues with my mental health when I was younger was that I just didn't seek help. I was like, no, I was too scared to. I think I kind of thought I would get through it on my own. It was an insidious onset and development, so it's kind of hard to tell that it was getting worse. And also, it was like I didn't want to be kicked out of medicine. I was like, no, I need to carry on. I need to go to work and do these things. And I was working at med school. Probably also didn't help. I was so fucking stressed because of like time and stuff. I also had dogs. I was literally like so busy. And yeah, so I just carried on. I was like, I let myself essentially get into a really bad place. And I do kind of think that was somewhat my fault, because I hid it really well. And I sort of knew it was happening, but I didn't want to seek help because I was like, oh, they're going to like, I just didn't know, you know, I'd never been diagnosed with anything before. And by the way, I'm scratching a bite on my leg, not like doing anything weird under the table. So yeah, I didn't really know what the consequences of having mental health problems in medicine were. I know it's not good to hide things, but you know, you kind of think, oh, then I'm going to be like watched. But actually the diagnosis got me so much help and I got better. So it was kind of like stupid. But the second thing is that I came off antidepressants so quickly because I wanted to go in the military. I was like, I'm going to get off antidepressants as quickly as I can. And that's when my sort of second round of depression really came in. And that was probably the worst time. And it was the hardest to get out of. Now, the issue is, if you let yourself get into that place, it's so much harder to dig yourself out of literally like the bottom of the ocean. Like, that is how deep it felt, you know? So it's like, don't let yourself get to that point where you're so fucking depressed every day. And that is, you know, seek help early is basically what I'm saying. So I think that was definitely one of the issues for me, was just like, la 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 la, I'm fine. I'm not going to seek help. I'm just going to do this on my own. Now, there is a kind of theory of like, are you preventing depression or are you just delaying the inevitable? I'm literally going to have to go for a shower after this. Well, in essence, sometimes it kind of doesn't matter. Like, if you're somebody who has a tendency to be depressed, delaying it, especially at pivotal life moments, is actually kind of important. Because let's say you get depressed at 16 to 18, for example, when you're doing your A-levels in the UK, well, that's kind of a point where you need to get a good education to set yourself up for life. Whereas if you delay it until you're like 25 and out of uni and working, then you've got your education, you are at the same level as your peers. So actually, you know, whether you're preventing or delaying it is actually kind of not a non-argument, but, you know, it has some merit in the fact that, well, I'm not sure that it hugely matters. There are obviously points where you have more stability in your life, especially financial stability, emotional stability, where it would be better. It, like, you know, for want of a better phrase, better time to have depression, because it's like you're not, you know, going through gaining an education or like trying to gain independence and things like that. So I think getting depression now, maybe at my age at 28, would probably, be easier on my, education and how well I do in life. So, even if I was going to get depression eventually, at least it's better that I get it at a time where it's less pivotal. Also, there's the same argument for postnatal depression. If you can kind of delay it so that the child is a bit older, then, or perinatal, afterwards, but not, most people with postnatal depression sort of get it right after. But if you can kind of delay that, then the child, especially the first 6 months of a child's life, is like particularly pivotal. Everybody thinks, it doesn't really matter. But actually, that's when you form so many, you don't have any memories of it, but a lot of neural networks. And God, this sounds so dry, doesn't it? But it's true. Like, if you're abused or neglected in your first 6 months of being born, then that has a significant impact on the rest of your life. And, there's studies to do with eye contact and stuff like that. So, a depressed, I'm not like blaming anybody, by the way. It's not like, oh, you're depressed after you've had a child, whatever. But no, that's not what I'm saying. But it's like, if you can delay it, like, that has some merit in it, I would say. So, like I said, I will do another episode on resilience, and I'll go into more detail about all of these things that I mention, but I sort of, can't go into detail on every episode of, negative, how to overcome negative thinking and stuff like that, and how to gain resilience. But another thing is, as I mentioned in the last episode, if you did listen to it, it was what causes depression, because I thought it was kind of important to know that before you talk about how to prevent depression. So when I talked about what causes depression, we talked about depressogenic behaviours, which basically means behaviours that cause you to be depressed. So that might be negative thinking patterns, for example, or just jumping to negative conclusions, or just generally having a tendency to see things in a more negative light. And that can be a learnt behaviour, generally is. And as in from your parents or peers and things like that. But also, just how do you respond to stress? Do you start eating? Or are you the kind of person who, when I'm stressed, I clean? That is it's pretty good. But sometimes when I'm sad, I eat. It's an emotional eating thing. But some people might just lie in bed if they're sad, or some people might go and do drugs if they're sad. Whereas some people might go out and exercise and have more positive behaviours towards negative situations. So having a more positive thinking pattern and more positive behaviours in times of difficulty are very beneficial in preventing your mental health getting worse. Having lots of good, stable, in particular, relationships, and committed, not just talking about romantic relationships, but we're talking about friendships, family members. Having stable relationships seems to be extremely important in having lower instance of depression and preventing depression as well. So, it's really hard as an adult because you meet a lot of people and then you never really see them again, and you're like, well, they're like, oh, have my number, and it's like, well, what's the fucking point? You're never gonna text me. So I often don't see the point in that. Personally, I like to keep maybe less than 10 significant, committed, stable relationships in my life, and have someone that's there for you in the shit times, rather than loads of friends who I don't really know. They live in random places, or I wouldn't really call them friends, to be honest. But that's, my personal thing is I prefer having like fewer friends. Also, it's like really hard to keep up with like 20 people, isn't it? Especially if you don't live in the same place. You can't just be like, let's go out for coffee. You've got to like message, you've got to try and organise it. Oh my God, being an adult is like pretty hard, I would say. No one ever said being an adult was easy, okay? Oh God. I feel like if you looked at my podcast like a few months ago, like in December, I was in like a buff, like a scarf basically, a woolly hat, like 3 layers of jumpers, 2 pairs of trousers. It was so cold, and now I'm here pouring with sweat. Like it's just the climate is significantly changing, obviously. And especially in England, where we're having like really randomly hot summers but also like really cold winters, and heating's really expensive, and then we don't have aircon, which would also be really expensive, and most of us don't have it. So we're kind of in this like weird zone where our climate is like both hot and cold. There we go. That's all I've got to say on that matter. It's not all I've got to say, but that's all I'm going to say. God. I actually looked forward to going into work the other day because it was really there was aircon in the hospital. Rarity. But if you work in a more modern hospital, then there is aircon. So dreamy. I walked in and I was like, from the like boiling hot outside. It was like when you walk off an aeroplane, but I did it in reverse. It was like boiling outside, and then I went inside and I was like, oh my God. So who'd have thought it, eh? It's like fucking Ibiza here. Okay, Dawn, stop moaning about the weather. British people moan about the weather. Like, that's not a myth. That is a true fucking fact. I mean, you're witnessing it right here. Next is... Okay, this is something that I think is quite prominent in myself. I am a doer. I have strong activism in terms of I go out and do things. I always want a purpose. I can't just be sitting around and doing nothing. I spoke to somebody, a patient, the other day, and he was sitting there just like waiting for, at home, I mean, he was like telling me about how he was, at home drinking like lots of alcohol, way too much. He was damaging his body, and he'd come in because of the side effects of that, basically. He's a similar age to me, and I just said, like, well, what do you do? And he was like, in your day-to-day life, and he's like, well, I just sit around. He doesn't have a job. I'm not like blaming him for that, but that does have a significant impact. And he's like, I just drink to fill the time. And I'm like, well, why don't you fill your time? He's like, oh, I've been waiting for my knee like problem to be fixed. And I'm like, you can't sit around waiting for things to be fixed, because you'll be sitting around waiting forever. Your knee might never be perfect. So you're just going to sit and drink forever? Like, fine, you can do that, but you can also do things sitting down that keep your mind occupied. Or, we could, like, if you want to go and, I don't know, fix paint a wall, you can do that sitting down. You don't have to stand up. So it's just like people come up with these excuses of like, well, I've got an injury or whatever. Or, people have had their legs fucking blown off and they go and run marathons. It's not I can't do this. It's a mindset. It's like, are you a doer or are you a don'ter? If you have a setback, are you just going to sit back and be like, oh, well, I'll sit and wait for something good to happen? Like, no. It's not going to fucking happen. And this is what I've seen as well with my acting, is I do think I am like less of a doer with my acting, because I am trying to do so many other things. It's like, I'm doing lots of things to like a mild to moderate degree, rather than doing one thing at like a severe level. But I mean, this person was just doing nothing at a fucking severe level. He was literally doing nothing except drink alcohol. He'd wait for his friend to get out of work and then start drinking. And because that's why I started to talk to him about whether he has a job, because he was like, I start drinking at 5. I was like, well, why do you start drinking at 5? Like, do you work? He's like, no, I just sit around and wait to start drinking. But I'm just it's having that doer attitude. Like, are you just gonna sit back and be like, oh well, like, it's hot, I'm not gonna do anything today because it's hot? Well, no, I shaved my dog. Well, both of them, actually. I also went for a swim. Like, I'm podcasting. Like, you just have to push through these difficulties in life. Otherwise, you know, life is one big difficulty. You're never going to get anything fucking done if you're just like, well, that was hard. I'm just not going to do anything. Some people are like that. That's fine if you're one of those people. But if you want to get somewhere in life and, like, not be depressed, then follow that advice. I have this inherent ability to be a doer. The thing is, I'll just sit somewhere and I can't, like, sit there for that long. I have to, like, get up and do something. So sometimes I will just turn the TV off because I'm like, I'm done with TV. But I'm too, like, tired to go up and do something. But after I've laid there for, like, half an hour, that's it. I'm ready. I'm fucking ready to go again. Whenever something would knock me down, I would be sad about it for a bit, but then it would come back as this, like, I always said, like, weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Like, I am a weeble. I wobble, and then I don't fall down. Or if I do, I get straight back up. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like, I used to ride horses. If I'd fall off, you got to get straight back on. Otherwise, that's literally a phrase. Like, get back on the horse. Maybe that's where it's come from. Oh, I smelt some BO and I was like, where's it coming from? Because I think it's that armpit, because I didn't put any deodorant on. I don't know why I had to mention that, but because you literally don't know. But now you know. I probably will go have another shower because I'm fucking roasting. Oh, I've really loved cool showers in the evening at the moment, like, because it's like 28 degrees. I get in the shower and I turn it down all the way to, like, cold, and then I get out and I just walk around and I'm soaking wet. My boyfriend hates it, but I'm living the dream. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I'm having a great time because I'm so cool. Physically, I'm not actually that cool. Or maybe I am. Who knows? So, yeah, just having a purpose. I mean, it was literally, I was watching something on, like, how to live to 100 or something on Netflix the other day. I need to stop watching Netflix. I watched too much of it for sure. And it was basically, like, one of the things was, like, having a purpose and, like, doing things. And, like, some people would garden, some people would go and volunteer. And that literally extends your life expectancy. So you can imagine how good it is for your mental health just to have a purpose in life. If you're just sitting there, you've got no fucking purpose, what is the point of you? Like, I'm not saying that as a bad thing. Like, that's supposed to be motivating. Like, find your purpose and you will be happier in life. Next. To be honest, this is my last thing, but it's kind of like, it's not really applicable to you. It's if you have children, okay? And you are a depressive kind of person. This is what I'm thinking for me, right? I have depressive tendencies just from the way I've grown up and my, like I've discussed. And I'm thinking, like, okay, I don't want this to translate to my children, if I have any. How am I going to do that? Now, the easy ones are don't abuse your children or be with an abusive partner. Easier said than done, that one. But alas, you can control the first one, I hope. The second one is to have a stable life. I went to 6 schools when I was younger. Is that stable? No, it's fucking not. You don't need a, like, rocket scientist to answer that. I had probably one of the least, not the least stable childhoods, but, like, some people have been in their houses all their lives, and I never had that. I never had a childhood bedroom that I could call my own. I never had, like, my stuff, like, I was always moving house. It was just, I just didn't enjoy it. And I would have liked to have had a stable childhood, stable friends. I mean, I met lots of people, but I also lost a lot of friends just by moving out of the area. And I think stability, if you can avoid it, moving house often or changing partners, then ideal. That is something you may need to work on. Like, that's not necessarily an easy thing. Sometimes some people are just unstable people. And it's not like, those people who take their children around in like camper vans. That, I'm not saying that is unstable necessarily, because you have a stable parent guardianship role, and then you have a stable like home, even though it moves. But it's like, you don't know where you're going to be next, or like, if you can, like, are you going to move house next year, or am I going to be at a different school, or who's my stepdad going to be next year? Do you know what I mean? That's like the hard bit. Another thing is educating your children about mental health problems and being very open about the discussion. Education is literally the fucking key to life, which is why I said earlier, having depression or mental health issues at pivotal moments in your life, especially in school or in educational times, is quite a setback. But educating your children about how to what it's like, the negative side effects of having depression or letting it get worse. Maybe you can just like stick my podcast on in the background and they'll be like, wow, I know so much, wow. And also showing them that it's okay to access help. My family have never accessed help for their mental health problems. I was the first one to do it, I would say, like, of my close family. And then I had to encourage other people to do it. Now, I would say if you were a parental role model, it would be a good thing to teach your children to go and seek help, and to seek help early as well, and to talk about their mental health, because that was something that I wasn't particularly au fait with. I would always just like keep my feelings inside. I've only really, like, if you told me 3 or 4 years ago that I'd be doing a podcast about my mental health, I would have been like, shut the fuck up. No, I'm not. Because it was just like so unlikely. I just didn't talk about these kinds of things, didn't talk about my feelings, didn't show my feelings, was too scared to like, also being an actor, like, I've just really changed a lot. I sound like I've changed so much. I sound like such a little fuck boy, but fuck girl, if that's a thing, I don't know. Anyway, I think that's it for today. But I know the last one wasn't necessarily about preventing it in yourself, but preventing it in the future generations is so important. Don't you want the best for your children? So anyway, I hope you found it useful. If you have, give it a like or a rating on wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're not listening on Spotify, then please just, can you go over there and just give it like a 5-star? That would be real great. Even if you just give it a 5-star of effort, because I am literally pouring with sweat right now, so I'd love some appreciation for the sweat crew. And I try to upload every Monday and Thursdays. My last few weeks has been crazy. It's currently, well, technically it's Sunday, but I still feel like it's Saturday night. I might upload this one now. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. That's a choice for a minute. But please share it with people, friends, family, babies, if they're requiring it. And I hope to speak to you in a few days. Like I said, every Monday and Thursday. I don't think I actually said that, but every Monday and Thursday I do tune in usually, but these last few weeks have been a little bit crazy, so I apologise for that. Anyway, I love you, and I'll speak to you in a few days. That's me blowing a kiss.